Okay, so I'm going to call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. It's fun to have everybody here tonight and to see what's going on. So are you guys seated like in different sections? Is this all the...
This is the pre-K corner.
Is that what it is?
We aren't friends with you yet.
And the legislative corner to the other side?
Yeah, there are more on their way, so.
There's more on their way. Perfect. So I think it might be nice if we start with some introductions for everybody. I suppose we could approve the agenda and officially start and then do that?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. And Spoon is not here, but he said he might not make it and he might be late. Either way, so not to hold up for him. So let's go ahead with the agenda. We need to add on that under new business I have one thing.
Well, why don't we, I move we approve the agenda, the warrants.
Seconded.
Now we can add.
So under new business, I know I have one item, which is to look at the Crowell lot and the Fort Dummer fields. I have information on that. That came out of last meeting.
And we will have an executive session.
That was the other one that we'll need to have at the end. Anything else from anybody? So,
We need to vote.
all improve?
Aye.
Aye? No problems. Okay, then let's go ahead and do some introductions over on this side of the room.
Hello, I'm Senator Rebecca Ballin. I represent Windham County in the Senate. I live here in Brattleboro, just right down the road. My two kids go to Green Street School.
I'm Representative Molly Burke, and I represent District 2, which includes this school right here. My children went through public school. All three children went through public schools here in town.
Hi, my name's Tom Yawn. I'm a neighbor. I live right over here. My dog used to enjoy your backyard. And I work for the school district. I run a program called the Windham Regional Collegiate High School, and we, in the past, have had an ECE program to prepare people that work in the business, and we're here to get information and hopefully figure out a way to regenerate that.
Perfect. And then I think we'll jump over to this side.
My name is Serena Keppel, and I am the licensed teacher at Dummer School for our partnership, and I'm representing the school.
I'm Melanie Zinn. I'm the owner and director of Horizon Early Learning Program in Brattleboro. It's a multi-age program, and that's it for now.
I'm Dora Levinson. I am the Southeast Regional Coordinator for Building Great Futures.
I'm Mariah Carney. I'm the director and lead teacher of Westby Nursery School in West Brattleboro.
I'm Janice Stockman. I'm the early childhood coordinator for Windham Southeast.
I'm Emily Wagner. I'm a community and program support specialist with Let's Grow Kids.
I'm Jen Lynch. I work for Early Education Services. I'm the associate teacher here at Oak Grove.
Jen Torville, I'm the pre-K teacher here at Oak Grove.
Okay, I think Chloe.
And I'm Chloe Leary. I'm the director of the Winston Prouty Center, and I think I'm supposed to be saying that.
We're trying not to be quite so segregated. All right. And then, just in case everybody around the room doesn't know all of us, perhaps we should introduce ourselves. Jerry, I'll start with you.
I'm Jerry Curry. Welcome. I'm the principal here at Oak Grove.
Hi, I'm Kelly Dias. I'm the principal at Academy, and I have a daughter at Horizon.
I'm John Sessions. I'm the assistant principal at Academy.
Kelsey Manwaring. I'm a third grade teacher at Green Street School, but I also take the notes for these meetings.
Mark Spiano, principal at Green Street.
Deb Gass, director of early education services.
Kim Price, vice chair of the school board.
And Jill Stahl-Tyler, chair.
Lana Holiday, superintendent.
Robin Morgan, I'm a school board member.
Lisa Duncan Hawley, director of special education.
And Dave Scholes, I'm a school board member as well.
Nobody else snuck in. Okay. So that we're going to put, as normal, the visitors first. And you all know what order you're going in, I guess. I'm just supposed to pass it to you. Janice?
Yeah, I'm just going to start off by thanking you for devoting this meeting to preschool and pre-K education and for inviting the legislators. So I'm happy we're here. I wanted to start off by telling you some of the numbers of kids that are served in Brattleboro in pre-K, some of the positives and some of the challenges that we face in our work under our current structure, and then what can be done to improve it. And then after I speak, you're going to hear from lots of the other partners. So to get a full picture of what we offer to kids in Brattleboro, ages 3 to 5, there are 165 Brattleboro children between the ages of 3 and 5 that receive pre-K education at Oak Grove Pre-K and our partner programs, and also at Head Start. And just so you know, we have an additional 88 kids served in the surrounding towns of WSES. We maintain 17 partnerships. They rise and fall from year to year, but currently there are 17. So I don't know if you know, but Wyndham Southeast was one of the first SUs in the state to participate in public pre-K back in the early 2000s. And we started with 3 partners then, and it was before my time, but you know, we've grown to anywhere from 17 to 20, depending on the year, partnerships. Speaking to the school board, you are most familiar with EES and Oak Grove in the last few years, but it's important that you know there are many, many other preschoolers that get their education because of the partnership with the Brattleboro Town School Board. And there's a rich and diverse group of early childhood programs in the community. So I'll just speak from in my view. We deliver pre-K services through Agency of Education Programs plus what's known as Act 166, and that's the public law that allows education funding to travel to school districts and then to our partner programs to defray the cost of tuition. So I think there's a lot of benefits to it. There are quality standards built into Act 166 that mean our kids are receiving a high quality pre-K education, and you can't be a qualified program without meeting those standards. We have a diverse service delivery model, which means that families can choose a program that suits them philosophically, logistically, financially. We have partners that offer different educational approaches: Montessori, Waldorf, more traditional nursery school programs, childcare programs, some that are open year-round, some that align with school calendars, and some like Head Start that offer health and nutrition services that are free to low-income families. Another positive is that because the funds flow from the state to the school district, to the partner programs, or to the families via those programs, we have a strong relationship. Our local school district has strong relationships with the preschools in our community. And we know that kids are better off when schools and their preschools talk to each other. It eases their transition to school, and they're better off in lots of ways. And then finally, families get a financial break because of Act 166. So this year, $3,217 was taken off of tuition for families who went to a partner program, or if children only attended 10 hours a week, they were able to go to preschool for no cost at all. But there's shortfalls in what we're able to do. 10 hours a week of pre-K education is sort of an arbitrary number. There's no evidence that shows 10 hours is better than 20 hours, or, you know, so I think most of us feel that 10 hours isn't enough to accomplish the learning goals that we want for kids, and it's certainly not aligned with the real life issues that families face if they have to work. There are costs associated with meeting the high quality standards of Act 166. So we expect more of, we expect that there's a licensed teacher. Those teachers need to be paid according to a professional wage. We expect them to do a lot more in terms of assessment than they might otherwise be required to do. And this places a financial burden on programs. We expect them to have more professional development than they might be required to do otherwise. So the funds that come from our education fund goes directly to defray the cost of tuition, leaving the programs without much to recoup for those administrative costs. And maybe you'll hear from them about that too. And despite the high standards, it's not assured that every pre-K child is in a classroom taught by a licensed teacher. That's because the law allows that. So in my mind, it would be better for all preschoolers to be taught in a classroom led by a licensed teacher, but we're not there yet, and that's a function of the way the law is written. So I'm going to end just by saying that I know you are all well aware of the child care crisis that we have. It's in the media. I think the legislators are talking about it, and I think that we finally have the public awareness and the public will to make some changes to that. There's inequities in access to child care, in families' ability to afford high-quality child care, and the workforce is clearly not compensated with wages and benefits that they deserve. These are real challenges that need to get addressed and that we need to find solutions to. But Act 166 was not intended to solve the child care crisis. It was intended to provide access to high-quality pre-K education for students, for children around the state, and using education dollars for that purpose. And it was intended to recognize that this sort of education could happen in a variety of places, in a variety of ways. So in a public school, in a community-based private program, in a Head Start program. So, and it was set up to funding follows the child. In a climate where there's so many challenges to the existence of early childhood programs, it's easy to see Act 166 as an obstacle to solving those problems, but actually we can address some of the shortfalls of Act 166 while we still address the child care crisis. So it's not like either one of those is responsible for the problems of the other. So that's all I wanted to say. I'm happy that we have rich and vibrant partnerships, and I'm happy that people are here today to talk about them.
Do you want me to walk over there? I'm going to be very brief because, as you all know, Early Ed Services is part of Brattleboro Town School District, and I feel like we get a lot of spotlight because I'm here at the board meetings, and I want to leave a lot of time for my colleagues in the audience. So just briefly, Janice, thank you. You really did a great job of capturing the essence of what Act 166 means for Head Start and Early Head Start and Early Ed Services in general. All of the strengths that it brings, and I just want to add, in this district, what I really appreciate is the collaboration that we have in this community. It's very strong, and I think in some ways unique to this state. And kudos to Janice, because she does a great job of pulling us together and providing information across the board, and giving us training opportunities. The funds at EES do provide actually extend program hours for our Head Start families, and so that's much appreciated. The challenges are that it's the salary issue that Janice spoke to, and the fact that we are at a national crisis in that we can't find enough teachers in the field. And so as we raise the bar on expectations, qualifications, and all that, we're not raising the salary to match those expectations, and that we certainly feel that at Early Ed Services. I have left most of you our annual report, and I'm going to send them out. Becca, you're in it. There's a photo of you in there. With that, I'm going to bow to my colleagues, because I think most of you know all about Early Ed Services.
Take a I know that people wanted to take a tour of the preschool here at Oak Grove. Do you want to start that now?
That'd be great.
This is our classroom. We have 15 students this year. We just got a new student today. So we have 15 students. We're collaborating with Early Ed Services, which has, only being the second year, the first year was definitely a learning curve. I think this year we're really you have things ironed out, and last year with the collaboration, and we found that we were trying to meet two schedules, the EES schedules of like parent conferences and TS Gold, and then the Oak Grove schedules of parent conferences. So we met with parents a lot last year. So that kind of got ironed out a little more. We have a more even amount of conferences throughout the year. Our kids are here from 7:45 to 2:45. It's nice, we have a door in the back. That's where parents can come in. They sign in over there. We have their routine. They come in, they answer a question of the day, they put their stuff away. Everyone's served breakfast. So all meals are served in our classroom. For lunch, we walk over to the cafeteria. The kids get their lunch and they bring it back in the classroom. Everybody eats what the school serves. There's no food coming in from anywhere else. They get a healthy snack.
We go to specials.
Yep, we have specials. So we have our schedule. We review this every day, and it has the specials. We have library we go to, art and music comes in the classroom, and this year we get to go to PE. Last year we only did that during winter sports. This year we've had it all year.
We have access to the playground out here too, so we just go out this door and spend a long time outside every day.
We have parent resource board that we have put up together for parents to tell us about different things going on. We do newsletters. The school newsletter goes up there. So we have the school newsletter, and then we do our own classroom newsletter. We have, besides the specials that they get here, because we're partnered with EDS, we also get music and art from BMAC. They come in and do some lessons with us throughout the year. We get 4 to 6, I think, lessons with Beak comes, and we walk over to Wilson's Woods and we do some science over there. Anyone have questions?
Are the kids in the families in your class, because it's part of EES, also have access to all of the wraparound services that they have at the Birch Street and other spots?
Yeah. We have a family support person that comes from EES over here and checks in with parents, and we have meetings once a month where we talk about all the families and what supports we can offer them.
And then we have, so we have access also to EES. They have, what's Crystal's?
She works for HCRS.
HCRS.
She's a school clinician
But
that
then
works for HCRS.
And we also have the Oak Grove one, so we have double support of our behavior and social supports. We also do work with Janice on the pyramid model. So I'm going through coaching and training this year. Our whole teaching staff was trained in it, and then Janice and I were doing some coaching. We meet about every 2 weeks, and she comes and observes in our classroom and working at social emotional skills.
So I'll just add a few things. This, in my opinion, is the optimal model for Head Start in that it's a blended classroom, so it's a mix of Head Start and non-Head Start children. We have wonderful teachers. They've stuck it out for the second year, and we're going strong. This model is something that we would love to replicate everywhere because it really represents the reality of life. It's not all Head Start children in a classroom or all public school children excluding Head Start. So it's a great partnership. Act 166 does actually contribute toward the financing of this model. And as you heard, the model runs the school year. So in the summer, if we have Head Start families who need year-round care, we offer them summer care at our Canal Street location just down the street.
It's a wonderful environment.
Yeah. It's coming along.
Is the pyramid model early MTSS? Is that
Yes.
the same thing? And then are you able to connect with teachers in the school here around the transition to MTSS from early MTSS?
We do, and we also, we meet here, we have the educational support team, we have the pre-K too, so we can bring in the counselor, we can bring in, so that's something we are meeting monthly to talk about any students that we have, so we do have the EST. And then there was something else we do ask them, but I thought of now, I can't think of it.
We can talk about it another time.
Oh, and the other thing that we get too is we just started second grade. They're having students that are coming in, they may be earning Grovies, it's the PBIS for the school, and they can come in here and read story time to our students. Nice. And so that's really been something that's nice. So they're building their confidence by reading to the kids in our class.
Is 15 students capacity for your program? Is there a wait list?
Is there a wait list for our program?
Oh, for this year? I'm sorry, I can come closer, sorry. This year we do not have a wait list right now, but we just enrolled another student. We have our licenses for 15, and so we were at 14, and we brought 15, and then a family moved, and so then we've had kind of an open slot, but a family just happened to move in down the street and stepped in, and really like, how do I register for kindergarten? When do I do that? And so we started talking about pre-K, and so she started today.
Yep.
So I do, but we're keeping a list of families for 2 years from now, even. So we take 4-year-olds. So the idea is that there'll be 4 by September 1st, with the idea that they're going to go from here right into a kindergarten class in one of the 3 town schools.
How would, if a parent wanted to get on the waiting, I'm surprised you don't have a waiting list, because this is a program that doesn't, like if you get in it, parents are lucky to not have to pay tuition. Like all our programs are gonna have to pay tuition, it's only $3,000 now. So how, if parents want it, so it's a half and half classroom, 8 slots for Head Start, and so of the kids, how would families get on the waiting list for?
Families usually just call. They call, they stop in, they kind of word of mouth is how we've been able to operate so far with siblings, and so really it's more word of mouth of that we have a public pre-K. Or they'll call central office, and then central office will put them in touch with us.
Right, should we wander back?
Pretty good.
Ready for the next person? Who's up? You guys have a whole... do you want them to come to a specific spot?
Actually, if I could just bring you in a little closer. Jill, am I in the wrong That would be great. Place?
No, we're trying to mesh people. It's all right.
I'm almost always in the wrong.
So I just wanted to thank everyone again for allowing us to be here and to have a voice, and so that you can put our faces to our names, and hopefully the children that are coming into the kindergarten classrooms. I'm actually going to introduce to you the Early Educator of the Year, Miss Melanie Sin. And I'm going to let her. So yes, this fall I was honored to receive Vermont's Early Childhood Educator of the Year from the Permanent Fund. And
awesome opportunity, and it's been great. So going from there, a little bit about Horizon. Horizon we are a multi-age program, one of the few in town. So we have 2 multi-age classrooms. One has 2, 3, and 4-year-olds, and the other has 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. In each classroom, we keep as low ratios as possible. So I have what's called a teacher associate, someone who has their associate's degree, so they are allowed to have that group. We have 2 to 10 in the 2, 3, and 4-year-old. So we have a teacher associate and an assistant. And then the other classroom, we have 2 to 14, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds with a teacher associate and assistant. Then there's myself. I'm a master teacher. I'm also I own the business. I run the business, and I'm the director. But I also teach. So I work in both classrooms, and I have an assistant who works in both classrooms. So there's always 3 of us in the morning times with our groups, so we can keep the ratios really low. Because we all know if you have 2 teachers and 14 preschoolers and someone's potty training and then someone's having a tantrum, you end up with 12 other kids who really don't have anyone. So that's one of our big values at Horizon Early Learning. So that's just to ensure that we have a high quality early ed in our program. Let's see, where was I? But having a program that has a low student to teacher ratio, it is best practice, but it proves really costly. We like to have some specials too, like music. We have Robin come, but that's funded through fundraising and trying not to raise parent tuition, all of those things. We also partner with the retreat farm. So we go there, except for about 10 weeks in the winter. We walk there once a week, and we do outdoor learning. So we're getting a lot of that. We're within walking distance, which is really nice. So we do a lot with the farm, and our parents really appreciate that. The kids love the animals. It's sort of like they know the routine, they know the farmer's there, and all of that jazz.
Where are you actually located?
So we are actually located, I still don't have a sign. We are actually located in the basement of St. Michael's Episcopal Church. I used to teach public pre-K in New Hampshire, and then I was riffed, and I started my own home childcare because you have to do that in your home before you can have a preschool program. So I had a home childcare, a registered home childcare, then I had a licensed home childcare, which is similar to some other partners, and I was partnering then. And then I moved into when Brattleboro Nursery School, they shut down, they dissolved, I took over that space. And we sort of grew. So including myself, there's a staff of 6 of us, and we have 32 children. We're open 7:30 to 4:30. They're long days, but we make it work. So so that's where we are. So we also like that we're within walking distance of the post office, the fire station. We've gone and done ice cream at the Blueberry House little store there, with different things like that, just to be involved in the community. So we really like that location. Lots of playing on the common. So our main philosophy at Horizon is creating a sense of community. We work closely with families from day one to ensure a solid relationship is formed, not just with the children we're caring for, but with all of the adults and families. Let's see, we've driven students home, accompanied parents to appointments, provided gas cards for those who can't afford it. We really work on helping parents create solid routines at home if they're struggling with something. I've gone into many families' homes. I think a lot of us in early ed programs go above and beyond and do this sort of thing. We don't have HCRS necessarily or someone else to help us. The role falls all on us and it has to be what we want it to be. And for the larger focus on community, we partner, like I said, with Retreat Farm. And I think you guys are all going to get this nice little handout so you don't have to worry. A little blurb about all of our programs. Let's see. So this year I worked with a few middle class families who couldn't afford childcare, and they didn't qualify for financial assistance. But they also don't make enough money to pay for their bills, and they have other debts, and they have children who are they're scholarshiped in, which is just based on need. What parents need. I've had parents come and say, I can't have my child stay home. I don't have a grandparent. We don't have any resources, but I can't afford this. And so then I say, how about you afford this? And then I take on the role of another role. We have a lot of hats that we wear. I take on the role of fundraising and trying to bridge that gap. That I say, here's your scholarship to this. This is the tuition I'll charge you, but then here's what I really should be making for every child to be able to pay my staff. And I have high quality staff. I've not had any turnover. I had one who sort of retired from the business, one teacher, and I've gained a new teacher in the meantime. But other than that, I haven't really had any turnover in the 3 years that I've been. So I guess it's tricky. Act 166, I love the fact that we can say to our parents, here's tuition minus $3,267. You know, like they're like, yeah. But it's really a financial burden on the program when we offer that 10 hours. I have a couple spaces where children come 10 hours. And that Act 166 money covers the 10 hours, but there's still a lot more to be done. The kids have to be observed, and there's a lot of administrative stuff that goes into it that we're still doing for that child, and we're not having any outside funding above and beyond Act 166. And I think you'll hear about a lot of that from a lot of us. So I think that's everything that I wanted to cover. Yeah, and thank you, Mariah. You can go next.
Okay. Westby Nursery School is located in the back of the First Congregational Church, or right across from Academy School, which allows us to have this nice partnership with Academy. And we have the 5th graders come over and read to us, and we use the 4-wind trails. Robin's come in and taught 4 winds for us before as part of a parent cooperative job. We're one of the last parent cooperative programs in the area, and we're also only a part-time program, so we offer 25 hours. So you can come 2 days for 10 hours, 3 days for 15 hours, or 5 days for 25 hours. One of the great things about Act 166 is that we can offer a free 2-day program to many families in the area, and that's usually the program that fills up first. Parents are like, what? I don't have to pay tuition? This is great. We also love the mixed delivery system for our community, because it's really, if we didn't have that mixed delivery system, we would have a lot of children that wouldn't be in care. So it's really great that Act 166 offers that. Because of the mixed delivery system, we've had families enroll in our 2-day program that they've said to us through parent surveys that they would have never attended preschool except for the fact that this preschool program was free. And because they attended, we ended up seeing that they qualified for special education services through the district. So that was really awesome to be able to get families in, not have a financial tuition burden for them, but also see, oh, you qualify for speech services, so you can get this while you come to school. Whereas if they would have waited until they were in public school, those services could have been a lot more intense. So that's a really great thing. We have this great professional learning community that Deb mentioned and Janice mentioned, and this district is really SU is really supportive to our programs. We have partnerships with other school districts, and they don't pay for our teaching strategies gold portfolios, and this district does, so that's really great, even though it's only $11 per child, but it's still something that's really helpful to programs, because it's part of that admin cost that comes out of the tuition that goes to the family, but really comes out of the program. I was one of the first programs to work with this SU when there were only 3 of us, and the way the funds were allocated was up to the program, which was really great, because we took 1/3 of it and we put it into our program. We took 1/3 of it and we put it into salaries and benefits, and then we took 1/3 of it and we gave it back to parents for tuition. Well, that model has long been is just out the window, and they use something called a cost template. So all programs would have to come up with a cost template to figure out how much does it actually cost to send a child to preschool. And after doing a couple of years of the cost template, Act 166 decided to say, okay, here's the money, and it has to be used directly for tuition. Directly for tuition. And so in running a 2-day program with a actual cost of $6,200 for next coming school year, and the state giving us $3,356, and having 16 children enrolled, that gives us, just by running that 2-day program, a loss of $48,000. That $48,000 that we are not receiving is our tuition, is our teacher salaries, is our health insurance, is all of the administrative costs that go into partnering and taking part in the high quality program of Act 1CC6. So even though we love partnering and we've been doing it for the last 13 years, there is there's this feeling of, hello world, what's going on? We have these children that we know benefit from being in high quality early childhood programs. And we know how hard teachers work, and we know that a lot of us work from our hearts. But at the same time, something needs to change because the turnover rate that's happening and the programs that are having to close. So I'm asking our legislators, please go and say these programs need an admin stipend or an admin something to help bridge that gap, so that we can continue to run really good, high-quality programs and also survive. I have a teacher that is an amazing teacher, but when you look at the 2016 cost of living hourly, that should be $13.03 an hour, I can't pay my teacher that. So here you are with a licensed teacher that's not getting paid what a licensed teacher should be paid, and another teacher who is an amazing teacher, doesn't have her license, has some college credentials, but isn't even being paid a livable wage. So please support us and say they need an admin cost and they need some support. Thanks.
It's a tough act to follow. So I'm Sabrina Keppel, and I am representing Hilltop Montessori School. We are a program that serves children from toddler through middle school. Our early childhood programs are mixed-age programs. We have a mixed-age toddler program and 2 mixed-age pre-K programs. We follow Montessori curriculum, so our emphasis at our school is on independent learning, self-directed learning, and on a lot of choice. We have a lot of hands-on materials that are self-correcting. The children use them independently. They choose what to do. We have a model where our older children help give lessons to our younger children and teach them how to use the materials. One of the ways we think of teachers is to be a guide. So although we do have one-on-one lessons and we have small group lessons, we also try to draw children into the materials and lessons we think they need to learn by highlighting the materials in the classroom, by setting it up in a really aesthetically pleasing way, in a place in the classroom that is really highlighted so that children are drawn in. So that's one of the philosophies. We are a private school, but we serve children from a lot of different backgrounds. So it's not just children of high incomes. And increasingly, programs like the subsidy program and like our partnership allow us to serve a wider and wider variety of backgrounds of children. And that's one of the reasons why we really appreciate being able to partner, because it does support our families to be able to choose if our program is the best program for them or if any of these other programs are the best model without thinking about what they can pay. One other thing that we've really enjoyed about the partnership, when I asked the teachers at our school to talk to me about it, was the support that we've gotten from this district in particular and from Janice. That there's a place that we can go if we have questions about services, about how best to handle a certain situation with a child. We know someone that we can trust, that we can partner with, and that's such a great thing to have to help bridge our programs, our younger children programs. And a lot of the children do go to the public schools in our area, so it's nice to have that walkway. We have the same problems a lot of the other programs have, though, with the model. There's a lot of paperwork involved in it. There are specific requirements from the partnership. There are specific requirements to be even eligible to apply for the partnership. And they take time. There's a lot of specific assessments that we have to do. There are community pieces that we have to do. And it's difficult for our classroom teachers to have time to do those things. So one of the ways that we have decided to try to fulfill those obligations is to take one of our classroom teaching positions and change it a little bit and actually pull that teacher out of classroom hours for a large portion of the day so they can do some of these paperwork requirements. And while that's a good model for our school, it does actually hurt our ratios. It gives us one less teacher in the classroom. And it's necessary, but it's not the best possible way of doing this, we think. Going along with that, like other programs have mentioned, the 10 hours in terms of what it costs for us to provide the care and the 10 hours that we are reimbursed is not the same. And it can create a gap that we have to, and that gap is a gap that we have to make up by charging more for the rest of the hours that children come to our programs. So anything that helps us address those two issues would be greatly appreciated, but we do very much appreciate the partnership and look forward to more years of working with you all.
I guess it's my turn. I don't think I have to. I'm sorry, I'm really uncomfortable standing there, so I'm just going to move my chair over. People are okay. Thank you very much. My colleagues did a much better job of that than I would. So I'm going to hop over here. Okay, Jonathan, how are you? Nice to see you. My name is Melissa Morose Gaskill, and I am the owner, director, teacher for Little Red House Early Learning Program. I am a small licensed home program. We've been around for 5 years now. I serve 12 children a day. We have 16 families currently enrolled at Little Red House. I have 2 amazing staff that work with me, 1 full-time teacher, and then I have 2 part-times currently. Very fortunate to find an intern this year that we are helping to grow as a teacher. So that's very exciting, kind of trying to help. As you're saying, there's a real shortage in our workforce right now for high-quality teachers, whether they be licensed or not. And a piece, I think, is a responsibility of our high-quality programs is to reach out to those people who want to come into our field and to help them grow and to give them the benefit of experience and to give them hands-on time in the classroom. So we actually pay our intern to come and spend time and learn because this is a person who is already making a very small wage in her other position. And so she actually comes on her days off so she's now working 7 days a week so that she can learn how to be a teacher. So I think that's something that we find very valuable at Little Red House. And I think, in this room, my colleagues behind me here are extremely experienced, well-educated, amazing teachers. And it would be wonderful, dear legislators, if we could support more programs like that, where we could go out and find these individuals who want to come in and learn, hands-on learning. You can take an online course in early childhood ed. It's easy. But working in early childhood ed, it's this. It's face-to-face interaction, and you are on every minute of the day. And those interactions are the most important things that we have to help children learn. It doesn't come from a boxed curriculum, okay? It comes from that face-to-face time. Every moment that we take when a child has a problem and we work to solve that with them, every moment we provide the hug or the pat on the head, we are growing brains. And so early childhood education, we say that, right? But it's actually, early childhood education starts when that baby is in your arms, right? And so I have a program where I have infants right now. My youngest right now is 16 months old, okay? And so, again, it begins then. But we don't have a great deal of support from that 0 to 3 time right now that we really need. That is actually even more important than the 3 to 5, 3 to 6 time. And so looking for support for those families, because finding
infant care and toddler care is extremely difficult in our community, and I think around our state for that. So we've got to look at that as being early ed. It's just not pre-K and the Act 166. I want to say I am very grateful for the pre-K partnership program that we have with WSCSU. And I am very grateful to Jana and all that she does to help support us. I mean, I think Janice also recognizes, there are hiccups in this, and that, we need to work together to try to help solve them. The reason I love partnering is because, as I was saying, I get to, I have a young lad who will be moving on to kindergarten this coming year. And he's been with me for 10 months, since he was 10 months old. And so what an amazing gift, because I have this multi-age program. I can watch that child grow and help him grow, because as we know, early ed, what is within norms, shall we say, of typically developing children, it's very broad. And so being able to watch a child grow, to be there, to support them, to provide the learning environment that they need to grow, is one of the greatest gifts and privileges that I have. And I've been doing this for over, a long time, shall we say. And so that's what I love, is that, the pre-K experience doesn't begin at 3. By the time they finish pre-K with me, that's the culmination. I get to start way back in very, very early time. Sorry, I've been on my soapbox a bit, haven't I? There are hiccups that are very difficult, and my colleagues have talked about the financial burdens, because it really does not. The 3,267. 67. I knew someone else would have it. Does not pay, truly, the cost of those hours. And so, I am currently, I was asked to talk about a challenge. In order to pay the amazing staff that I pay, and in order to provide them with a cost of living adjustment, I am currently, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I'm behind for myself right now in paying myself. I've missed 2 pay periods in order to make sure. Because one of the tricky parts about Act 166 for me, and being a small business, is cash flow. Okay, so I have a number of students, so it's like $24,800 that will eventually come to me at some point in time. But it's very, very difficult for cash flow. What's happening is I just put in my invoices for January 28th, and it's been, I believe, this year about a month to then receive the funds. So I'm assuming I'll receive the funds again at the very end of February. And those funds I actually have to put away, because that's payroll taxes. So right now, February payroll taxes are approaching. That's February 15th. January was a 3 pay period month. That's a lot of payroll taxes. So I can't pay myself right now, because I have to wait to make sure I pay my payroll taxes. And then hopefully, when I do receive the next installment, then I'll be able to pay myself. So that's a big hiccup for me.
And Melissa's not alone in that. It's not just, this is not like an outlying story. Same thing in January, dealing with the same thing. So I didn't want you guys to think, oh, maybe she's mismanaged. Not the case.
No.
It's not just Melissa's program, it happens to others too.
And so, I guess I really wanted to bring that point up. Administrative fees, huge burden. The comment that Mel said, we make it work. I feel like every person working in early childhood, we should have that badge that says, we make it work. without money, without time, without benefits, because we know, and I'm sorry, we know this is the most important time for brain development. And what we do now, from 0 to 6 to 0 to 5, 0 to 8, whatever you want to call early childhood, okay? That's where our future lands. So we have to do it well. We just have to. Thank you.
Another hard act to follow. I know we're probably running short on time. Yeah, fine.
Totally. You all know that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I'll just say really quickly about the Winston Prouty Center that we have lots of the same struggles, but we're a pretty large program and we have other services. So I think we absorb some of the challenges, like our cash flow. We have other sources of revenue. So I think we make it work, but if you break down some of the same challenges, they still exist. The fundamental, that I hope you're hearing the message about mixed delivery system, really different programs, different philosophies, different approaches, and it's important in our community, and it's great to have these partnerships so that families in our community can access that diversity of services. Our program is an inclusive program. I think we're probably all inclusive, but we are a stated inclusive program in the sense of typically developing and atypically developing kids and having a balance. I will tell you in my 11 years that it's hard to tell. It's not just kids with Down syndrome. It's like kids who don't have labels. So, that kids that we don't necessarily have a special ed label for, but have challenges. So it's that I would say that's blurred a little bit, but that's another conversation. And we also practice inclusion in the sense of having a representation from the community. So people of all incomes and from all different walks of life, we try really hard to balance that out. I would say this year we gave about $30,000 in scholarship because tuition, the sticker price of tuition is not what it costs to provide early care, as everybody has said. And that's a big challenge. So it's not just that, it's not Act 166 actually helps. I think that's one of the best things. It's great to say to a family, here's $3,000 off. Be nice to say, you get it for free. But, maybe we'll get there as a state someday. And I think the other thing to sort of highlight some of the themes we're hearing, if the 10 hours is this false distinction. And so it's kind of funny, we spent a lot of time thinking about Act 166, and it's for 3 to 5 for 10 hours, 35 weeks a year, and that's not actually the reality of life. So I just would encourage us to keep remembering how do we bridge between these different systems of early childhood, between sort of school world and childcare world, and they're not really different. Early education is all of this from 0 to 5 or 0 to 8. So remembering sort of that holistic picture, I think, is an important theme to pick up. And I feel like I had one other theme I just wanted to raise. Just the dedication and work. I would say our region is a little different. I hear other regions around the state and that the partnerships aren't so great, and then access isn't necessarily as easy. And so as we think policy-wise, like how do we hold Act 166 here and sort of pay attention to what's happening at the state level, there are differences between the regions, and this has been a really great SU, and we do have a robust partnership. It's not true everywhere. So I think some of the fights that happen at the state level don't make a lot of sense to us, because it's working okay here, so please don't mess with it too much, but they're going to mess with it. So we'll just hope it doesn't. But I think I would say, just to Melissa's point, the more we can treat this as a holistic time of life, whatever the back end of the system looks like for families and kids, if it's seamless and they can access what they need, however those partnerships happen, it's great that your program can access school-based services. We have other way of children's integrated services that can go into programs and help. There is EST for other preschools. So I think creatively figuring out how to make the system look seamless for families is something, if we keep doing that with a partnership, that's the best we can do. So, and I would advocate for more resources in early childhood as well. So I think that's it.
And we do have some information from Mulberry Bush and from Brattleboro Center for Children that we put all of this together in a handout, and I also have it electronically, so I'll get that out. I don't know if there's a transition into or Q&A.
Well, I think we should all have questions, but we also have cheese. Always about the cheese for everybody. So if we want to take like 2 seconds and get some food and then come back and have some questions for you all, and if you want to quickly think of that. And maybe the legislators have questions specifically as well. You can all rush the cheese. So we were at the questions part, and maybe you've been answering each other's questions while we were there.
So if you were to put on an administrative fee, how would you do that? Would you just add a certain amount per to that 3,000? Or would you just do a flat administrative fee for the center?
Per child.
Per child?
I think we've all talked about having it be per child.
And how much would you put on?
$8.75.
$8.75?
To start?
Want $8.
No.
I got
it.
Because you were happy about the $11.
No,
I got that.
It's in between the gap. So we looked at our actual, that's for my program, which could be completely different from every other program. But for my program, I would say $8.75. And that would get me halfway between that $48,000 difference.
Thank you.
Question. Deb mentioned earlier that the law now allows classrooms without licensed teachers. Is that something that you would suggest continuing if you could support them?
I mean, I'll speak. I think that I have some really highly qualified teachers who haven't gone on to get from their associates to get their bachelor's or their teaching license. I have one of my teachers who has her bachelor's, just doesn't have her teaching license. And as long as there's a licensed teacher who is within the program, and like in our case, it's Mariah does it, I am, Melissa who had to leave, she is her licensed teacher, and our other staff are really qualified. We have to be those 10 hours, we have to spend that in the classroom. I think most of us spend more than that. But I feel like it could definitely be beneficial to have more licensed teachers. That would be phenomenal.
Right.
But it's not realistic. As the one licensed teacher in all of our programs, we're not making what a licensed teacher makes on the salary scale at WSESU. How could we possibly pay other staff if there were more than one licensed teacher? So it's kind of a...
I was thinking more about in terms of the oversight. The medical model is very much now, there's a physician and a whole bunch of people actually seeing patients.
Right. Yeah, they compare a lot now, sort of like to the nursing model where it's like RN, LPN, the whole early ed field is going towards that at the national level in Washington. The whole, how do we become a profession of master teachers, licensed teachers, bachelor's degrees, associates, and where do you fall, sort of those titles like nurses do.
Once you start to get public money, it's really easy to say, well, everybody's got to have a license.
Yeah.
And the difference about partners too is that the public school classroom, preschool classrooms, and EES, their funds are used differently than the private providers. As private providers, our funds go strictly to tuition, and that is it. Whereas their funds are used in a whole different model. And I think that's really, really important to understand as school board members and just when you kind of can't put us all in the same group, even though we're all doing the same kind of work, because that funding is a lot different.
So one of you mentioned, I believe it was you, get rid of the paperwork, too much paperwork, or maybe you all. Anyway, I wrote it down, too much paperwork. And I don't know who said it, right after administrative fee. Is that a state requirement of the paperwork? Is it something that the state needs to address, or is it WSESU requirement for paperwork? It's a state.
No, it's a state requirement. But you also need those requirements in order to show high quality. Like if you don't have those types of things, then how do you show that these are high quality programs? If you don't have a licensed teacher, if you don't have your STARS requirements, if you don't meet.
Did anybody say get rid of the paperwork?
No, I just wrote down too much paperwork.
I talked about paperwork versus teaching because you only have so much money to pay staff, and so someone has to do that paperwork. And either you say to your teachers, "Hey, come in on Saturday and do those assessments," And, you know, we're teachers, we all work extra hours, but there becomes a limit to how many extra hours you can ask of your teachers. And so for us, that meant that in order to make that paperwork happen, we had to change our staffing a little bit and pull someone out of the classroom for more time. So it's not that these things are important to do. It's important to document that you are a high quality program. It's important to have rubrics for assessing that. It's just how do we make that happen in a way that we can afford.
Right. Well, we do like paperwork.
It just strikes me, I mean, here we are talking about trying to get more money, and, you know, we look at other countries that just have subsidized childcare for everybody. I mean, it's very frustrating, and I'm sure it's extremely frustrating for you, but, you know, we will try to push the needle a little bit. We're all very aware and sympathetic to the situation.
I know
If
for,
I-
sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if I can just add, I was in early childhood at the Prouty Center for 12 years and part of the early childhood community. And what frustrates me is that we're still having the same conversation 20 years later. It has not progressed. I mean, yes, there is the public money, which is different and an addition, but that's it. Everything that these women all said tonight are the same things that happened 20 years ago. And so we still haven't made it a priority as a society, and that just really bothers me.
And we talk about money to attract, you know, families to Vermont.
Absolutely, how can you?
I think that would be the draw.
Right,
You know,
it would be.
Vermont could stand out as a place to raise a family.
Yeah.
One thing that's changed is that we're now absolutely certain that it's the most important time in the child's life.
Yes.
And we still don't have that commitment.
Yep.
I'm just recalling a meeting we had a while ago, a few weeks ago, where we were talking about our budget, and we had an intention to raise the salaries of our EES staff to better match what the rest of the teachers are paid, but because their salary normally doesn't come from our school budget, it comes from federal money, we were talking about other ideas about how to get more money for those staff, because we've had such a difficulty retaining and attracting staff that last year we had to shutter one of the programs to only half time because there just wasn't enough teachers. So one idea that Deb had said was that maybe we could get around that by seeing if we could mandate more than 10 hours of funding. But now that I'm hearing from you guys, I wonder if that's a big difference between tuitioned programs versus federally funded, that would be a huge relief to us and allow us to pay the staff a living wage, but I'm not sure if that would help the other programs if they were mandated to give all of the money to the families. So I'm not sure what the solution is there.
It'd be a really big problem.
Yeah.
Really big.
I mean, I think if you, it would be great for kids to have 20 hours versus 10 hours. But this is a field that also takes into account the adults who work in it. And so.
Right, and that was the problem we were trying to solve, but it seems like what might help the people in the Head Start programs would be going the opposite direction for all of the partners.
Well, I mean, I think you're saying like increasing their salaries to be on par with the rest of the teaching staff. I mean, I also think that would benefit all of your partners, but there
Right.
isn't a way to do that
Right,
unless.
we don't have control over your salaries.
Right,
We can
unless
only-
it is like, let's look at this as, looking at it as an administrative cost, saying, okay, we can help by taking, you know, all of this X amount of money that we have and dividing it up equally amongst, including EES and your, you know, the programs, everyone that's partnering, and saying this, we want this to go towards the, you know, teacher
Right.
salary, and so then that would free up things in our budgets to go through other functioning programs. So there's
Right,
that way.
that seems like it would lift all boats, maybe a little bit more.
I do have one more. So, when you were talking, wait, I just had one of those senior moments. Went right out of my head, it was for you. It'll come back in a second, so don't worry.
I had a question for you specifically for us on the school board. Do you want anything different in the way we're partnering with you? Is there anything lacking? It sounds all very good. Of course, Janice, we already know is good, so that doesn't surprise me, but as long as you're all here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, I think good. It's good, these are good stories, and it's been a long-term partnership, and I think just listening to this conversation right now, I wonder if locally, again, we're just, we monitor what happens at the state, and stuff's gonna happen there, but, and this is my frame lately anyway, like, what can we do here now? So if there are creative ways, even if the state of Vermont is not gonna invest in early childhood for everybody, are there ways that in our local early childhood systems where we can think about the whole system and what that, and so just keeping that in mind, and are there creative things we can do that might look like, what Mel just described, to invest in the whole system and bring it up. There's a point in Building Bright Futures in a council meeting, this was a few years ago, Janice and I were on a subcommittee to try to look at, is there an early childhood, could we put together an early childhood budget? I think it was particularly when we were talking about how to get resources more to embed the pyramid model more in the community, for instance, because every program would benefit from having early MTSS or pyramid model, but not everybody has access to it, or it's hard. We can't. So when we have these cross-program initiatives that would be beneficial to everybody, are there ways that we can creatively partner and look at funding coming from different places? So I think it's more, it's not that anything's wrong with the partnership. Is there a way to leverage the partnership more to, raise all votes? So thinking creatively, are there subcommittees or particular initiatives where we could do things together?
I'm gonna go out on a limb and ask the school board if I understand that you're the fiscal agent for early education services and that they play a different role on the board than your partners. But we are your partners. You're counting our children to help with all of the taxes and all of that, and I'm not even gonna get into that whole spiel of things, but if there is a way that the school board is going to look at compensating or funding to help compensate EES salaries, I would ask you to put that money in a pool for all of us and don't divide us any more than we're kind of already divided. And to look at, okay, here's $100,000 I'm gonna give everyone an equal amount, and it's for raising salaries. You can do that however the school board decides, but in hearing just the possibility of raising EES salaries and thinking like, oh wow, like that's a hard pill to swallow, being a partner for the last 13 years, at one point in time having a collaboration with EES and then them deciding that we weren't doing collaborations anymore, and now moving to this model with a collaboration in the public school system. Like, it's just to keep an open mind, all of us as one versus EES and partners, because I think our numbers and the children that we're counting really, really benefit our community, and it's important to keep us.
And it's a different population. I mean, so any increases, like, we're going to pass it on to our families. So Head Start family, I mean, it's a targeted population, at-risk families. They don't have to pay. So when we have at-risk families, it's sort of it's different. It is a different model. I'm just really struck by you saying, like, it's a tricky thing to navigate. Good partnership, and that we all look kind of different, and so how do we make it look like a system in a way that's equitable access, and fair to families? Like, we can't, the only way I could increase wages is if I increase tuition. It's $1,000 a month already, which is like, a mortgage. And most people don't end up paying that because there's scholarships and Act 166 money, but like, I'm not sure, and this is a systems problem, it's not necessarily the school board, but how are we gonna deal with that? Like, I don't.
I did think of my question, if I may.
Can you hold it so I can get back to
Oh, yes.
So, all right, thank you for that comment, but it is, what Robin was expressing is also some of what Marissa's saying, that you've seen this, it's the same conversation, and that our conversation came out of how many years have all of us, different times on the board, been hearing the same conversation about keeping staff and trying to pay them a livable wage and all that. So that's where our thought came from. And we didn't go forward with it partly because it's the federal, but we also recognize the partnerships and other people that aren't partnering, but they're still providing early education services. But that doesn't negate what we were thinking still, which matches what you're all saying. So I really appreciate hearing all the different ways that early ed is being done. I mean, I knew peripherally as a parent, kids are older, so I'm not as involved now with that, but it's still a huge problem, and it's frustrating to think that, you're saying how many years, I know David has been on the school board slightly longer than me, and it's been all the time. And yet, this is something that we know is so terribly critical, and it pays huge benefits back later on, and what you don't pay out as a society.
And I think that this is a great first step, is to match the faces to the names and learn a little bit about the programs, and to make sure that when we're talking about early education, that the partners, that all of the providers from birth to 8, whatever, birth to 5, that everybody has a voice in the discussion.
Now, Jeanette.
Well, I just, I'm not, this is going to show my naivety, but because I'm not on the education committee, and I have never been on the education committee as long as I've been in the Senate. But and I seem to remember when we were first talking about this, that there was a discussion about where the money should go. Should it go to the center, or should it go to the parent for tuition? And you mentioned that at one point you could be more flexible in it. So is that something we did to you? And if we did it to you, can we undo it? I guess that's my question is, are we the ones that created that inflexibility by saying it had to be? And I just seem to remember this vague conversation. I mean, I vaguely remember the conversation about should it go directly to tuition or not.
Prior to Act 166, there was Act 62. And it codified that ed funding could go to early childhood programs in the community. And there was great diversity around the state, from school district to school district, about how much money was allocated to reduce the tuition and how much, so there was no standard. And so when they threw out Act 62 and wrote Act 166, they decided that there would be one standard amount all across the state, and it would be linked to a national, I don't know what the national financial standard is, but it increases from year to year based on something like cost of living, but it's not really that. And at that time, they said all of the money needed to go to defray the cost of tuition. Whereas prior to that, programs had their own, they could choose how much money. Now, I have to say, at that time, families were not getting their fair share in some places. Some families were getting a very small amount of that funding. And so, yes, the legislature did that, but I think if it were to undo it, it would have to keep in mind all these balancing acts. Families getting the right amount and programs not having to sort of pay for it off of their own budgets.
Or like maybe they could just keep that figure as it is now and then add an additional funding for the center to use as needed, or.
Okay, thank you.
So are there any additional questions? I'd like to publicly thank David. This was really your brainchild. This was a good one. Thank you. And thank you all for coming and being here. Feel free to stay if you wish, or go home.
I think we all thank you guys for having us.
All right. So now we'll go ahead and get into the regular meeting. In our first motion, we did not actually approve the warrants.
Right, we just did the agenda.
You did?
I think it was
Yes.
just.
Okay.
I thought it was just agenda and minutes.
That's what
Did
I
you say
remember.
warrants?
Kelsey?
I had written down warrants, but
Okay.
it might just be my norm to write that down.
We're on the policy council. Have they met recently?
We hired smart people, but I don't think we had an official meeting.
I don't think so either. I think we're off on timing because this is very early in the month for February. Energy committee is not meeting.
Same thing.
We have not met by
Right,
now.
Diversity.
Yes, we did have a meeting, and we had a good discussion. Like, turn back. What did we talk about? We talked about the middle school leadership conference that Lyle was at, and the film that they showed at that I Am From Here. We're going to try and have a film screening of for the community in May, and maybe look into partnering with some other thematically related artworks that we could kind of have more of a community-wide presence of diversity day, month, make it a longer, multiple events, in May. And some of the people were sharing what their schools are already doing on the theme. And then we finally had brought up the idea of doing some more literature nights, like the one that we had a couple years ago at Academy, and reaching out to the town principals and PTOs if they wanted to host one. That was basically that the committee and Michaela would pick out some picture books on different themes of diverse characters or plots, and then provide discussion questions. And then the one we had at Academy, we just had we provided dinner that I think the students made with someone from the co-op, and then there was each table had one of the books at it, and parents and kids could come and read the story together and then use the questions to spark a discussion, and then at some point we would switch to a new table. And there's also some grant money that we're going to apply for to have a giveaway to accompany that of a book that every child gets to take home. So there isn't any dates or anything proposed for that, but just more of like an idea to see, and there would be support from Michaela and from the committee if principals and PTOs wanted to take that on and have something in this coming semester.
Okay, so that's committee reports. Administrative reports, I think.
I know Kelly has some actionable items this evening.
Right, do you have your written reports for the month as well? And do we have, I definitely want you to get to actionable stuff. I don't want to cut you off, but we are going to go really long, so.
We understand, Joan.
Okay, I don't want to be mean. Jerry?
I'm just going to pass my month report. And we're keeping it short, so I'll just invite all of you. Tomorrow night is Dine with a Cause at the 99 Restaurant, PTO fundraiser. Our PTO is also getting geared up and ready to go. Our big fundraiser is the Harris Hill Ski Jump, so hopefully we'll see some of you there. They set up table at the Harris Hill on Saturday and Sunday, all day, February 16th and 17th. And,
no matter the weather, your Oak Grove parents
regardless
are
of
very
the weather,
good.
the last few years have been just remarkable. Mm-hmm. So, this weather, this winter has not played kind to us. We're, winter sports is on Thursdays, and we've had we're sledding on frozen turf before we had snow, and then we have snow, and then of course it rained, and then it was too cold, and so we're hoping we can get out on this Thursday. So anyway.
To sled?
Well, we sled. I mean, skating isn't impacted at all. I mean, they can still go skating, but I usually am on Memorial. I'm at the park sledding, and it hasn't been fun.
It's not going to be.
It's hurt our bums a little.
It's not going to be Thursday.
We've broken a lot of sleds.
It's not going to be. It's barely any snow there after today, and I just drove by on the way in. So.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And I've been a very good partner, if you will, because the kids are like, why can't we? There's all this snow over here. I said, nope. That is for the ski program. You may not go there. You may not sled wherever it's groomed. It's like, but it's all, no, sorry. So we're trying. But anyway, Kelly.
Okay. John does the report for non-board members, and I have special ones for the board members because you have a gift from Emily Marker's kindergarten class.
Seriously?
She sent
I
a
got
framed
socks and
photograph of her forest program for each of you. It's just very cute.
And they all signed it.
And she's attached a letter to you,
That's so
which
sweet.
is attached to the report. Welcome.
And D's and P's and B's are not too much.
This is the group that goes out the whole
10-year-old's
day.
still
They
struggling
do
with this.
every Thursday. Yep.
Did they do that in the polar vortex?
They did not go this past.
They do it in the downpour
Downpour?
rain.
Yes, they do.
Whoa.
They have gear. Yep. I'm gonna-
What's that? Oh, yes. There we go.
I will skim just a couple of things because we had a couple really cool things happen this month that I just want people to know about. We had a visit from artist Emily Mason. She's 87. She's married to Wolf Kahn. She's amazing. She's famous. She doesn't think she's famous, but she's famous.
She is famous.
And she spent an hour with 6th grade, and she was so humble, and they had all prepared questions for her, and then they read poetry that they had written in response to her paintings down at the Brattleboro Museum of Art.
Cool.
So that was a really just beautiful hour with her, and she was teary-eyed hearing their poetry, so it was a really just a nice, incredible visit. So we were really lucky to have her come. And the other thing that was related to that was we had our arts night a little bit early because our music teacher, Bree Davenport's about to go on maternity leave. So we had a great turnout, even though it was the very icy night before we ended up having a snow day. We had a wonderful attendance. We got to just walk the halls and see the art, and then had a band concert. So it was great. And we might, it's kind of a nice thing to do it in January. It brought some light to the season. So thinking it might be a good time instead of April when everybody has spring sports and other things going on. And everything else I'll let you just skim, but those were my highlights that I felt were really special that don't happen often for us.
Did you have actionable things as well?
I do. So this doesn't require action, but I'll show you first. I attached Jody's report for the month. I asked her for numbers, and she wrote me this, and I said, I'm just going to give the board this. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But on your next page, you'll have, I don't need your action because it's a substitute, but we did find a substitute for Bree just in time.
Oh, good.
His name is Nick Lawrence. He's a recent UMass grad. He's a music education and tuba performance major. He's so sweet and excited and wonderful. His references raved about him. So I think he'll be really a good match for us. And he started today shadowing Bree for 2 weeks, and then he'll be ready when the moment happens.
Were you able to pay him during the shadowing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, he's taking a lot in. Yeah. So he'll get to see his first all-school sing tomorrow, and he says he's willing to do it, so we'll see how it goes. And my actionable items are I have 2 retirements to let you know about. One is Judith Palmieri. She's been our guidance counselor for a long time. She's been in the district for probably 30-some years. She's a really integral part of our community, and I'm happy for her because she's got grandchildren far away that she wants to spend time with, but sad for us. So I'm asking for your approval of her resignation and also approval to post the job and rehire for a guidance counselor position.
So let's do them in separate motions. The first 2.
I move that we accept Ms. Palmieri's resignation with regret.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then let's go ahead with a motion for rehiring.
I move that we open a hiring search for a new counselor.
In a second. Then any discussion? I just like to always point out that, these are the types of things I think we should always do. And thank you, Kelly, for bringing it to us that way. That it's not just an automatic that we would always rehire at every time for every position. That said, I don't really see how you get around this position. I think we need to hire that position.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And my second retirement is another absolutely wonderful human being and teacher, Kathy Casson. She has worked as a classroom teacher and an academic support teacher for 11 years in our district, and most recently second grade academic support teacher. So she has given us notice of her retirement from that position. So I'll ask the same of you to accept her resignation, retirement with regret, and I'd like to rehire for that position as well.
So the first two.
I move that we accept with regret the resignation of Kathy Casson.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And Robin?
I move that we open a hiring search for a new academic support teacher.
Second.
And then my question is, how many kids are in first grade coming in the second grade?
Well, I could get you those numbers if I open my computer. It's a pretty big class, actually. First grade's a big cohort.
that.
I know we
We
did.
have it
Last
on
month or
the
something.
November report, I want to say,
Looks like Robin may have all of them with her.
and we added another one. I'd have to check because half of our academic support teachers are funded through Title I and half are local funds. I'm not sure which she is, but
So first grade right now is 18, 18, 16 at Academy, 16, 17 at Green Street, 16 at Oak Grove. So that answers that question pretty easy.
Sounds like they did.
Yeah.
All in favor? Thank you for humoring me on that, but I really feel it's important that we look through things before we just
no, I
keep
agree.
going.
It's right for discussion.
All right. Any more actionable?
I don't, Kelsey, did
Kelsey,
you have
do you
any?
have-
Nothing actionable. Mark just had two highlights that he wanted to share. So it is the report. The first one. The first thing that he wanted to note was down under parent and community events in January. On Friday, there was the first family bingo night. It was a fundraising event from the PTO. There was a great turnout, and around $1,500 was raised. So that was excellent.
What do we win in bingo? Kim and I are thinking we should head out.
You win a bingo machine. That was one of the prizes, right?
A bingo, or one of those?
Yes, you can have your own
That was
game.
one of the prizes.
It's like a pyramid scheme.
But the students could earn, teachers, staff members signed up for what we could donate with time, and so students could earn things like that, and then adults had the opportunity to earn gift cards. And
How did you make $1,500?
no, that's adults,
For bingo.
you had to pay for your
Your
board, your
What,
game board.
$100 a card? This is huge.
It's like $5 a card.
Well, people buy more than one card.
Oh, yeah.
So how much was it per card?
I think it's $5 a card.
Oh, it's not like the Guilford Quarter when you're out at the Guilford
Oh,
Fair.
yeah, it was definitely not a quarter.
Green Street is making money.
And then on the back, under teacher PD, Mark wanted to highlight that our second round of PLCs is beginning tomorrow. And as a staff, we came up with topics of study. And so we have groups that will be studying extending curriculum through technology, a group that will be starting to plan for SBAC, accommodations and incentives, a group studying racial equity and implicit bias, outdoor classroom and outdoor learning will be another group. Then there's our new higher PLC and our cooperating teacher PLC, which both will be a continuation from our first round of PLCs that ended last month.
And this is for professional development at the end of the day or something?
On Tuesdays, the first Tuesday of every month, all staff are required to partake in the PLC.
To stay after at the end of the day. It's not
From
one of
3
those-
to 4, yeah.
It's like, I was suddenly checking to make sure that my kids weren't gonna be out of school another day that I
Oh,
forgot.
no. No, first Tuesday, 3 to 4.
And these are all, the teachers choose which one they want to do except for the new hires or the cooperating teachers.
Correct.
All right.
I will reserve my time for our executive session.
Okay. So unfinished business. Well, I said we were gonna put it under new business, but it's almost unfinished business from the last meeting. So we should approve that. Anybody else have any other unfinished business that you're thinking of? So from the last meeting, we were talking about, Andy Davis brought up at the end, the Crowell lot and Fort Dummer Field.
I wish Mark was still here.
Mark
Spino.
Oh.
To talk about if there's any impact that we cannot foresee of the Crowell lot not being a school district property.
Well, so let me tell you what I found. Much time. First of all, I confirmed that yes, indeed, the Brattleboro Town School District does own the Fort Dummer Field, which in all the years I've been on the board, no one has ever mentioned, ever once.
Never once.
So I was surprised. And I actually asked the town too. I'm like, well, if we own them, do we do anything with them? I mean, do we actually take care of them? And
The high school does.
well, the Crowell lot, the town does.
Right.
So in both these cases, we are property owners that don't do a whole lot with the property to maintain them.
Or in the case of the Fort Dummer fields, use them.
Yeah. I guess I
Well, I
could.
think Oak Grove, do you go down sometimes to Fort Dummer?
Yes.
Yes.
But the high school and middle school use Fort Dummer all the time.
Oh, yes.
Right. I just
All
meant
the
ours.
But I imagine it's owned by the Brattleboro Town School District because it's a regional or a cooperative for BAMS and BUHS. And maybe they wanted it to be owned by the town school. I'm guessing that that's maybe how we ended up with it.
It probably preceded the high school.
That too, could be, right? Could be there for a long time. Although, anyway, I mean, that's just strictly guessing. The lights must have been paid to be put up, or are there no lights?
There are no lights in Fort Dummer.
But there are Crowell lot.
Fence, yeah.
Fence.
The Crowell lot there is. I mean, there's been maintenance on those fields since
yeah.
before the 1950s or 40s or whatever we might think this had come. So,
The place that you're talking about, a Fort Dummer, is it fields like fields for like
There's
baseball fields?
There's a baseball
Baseball
field, there's a
and soccer.
softball field, it's used for soccer.
Okay.
But also it's used, Little League will go down and they'll practice down there, they'll warm up for games or things like that.
but all of BAM's soccer is played there, and the JV and varsity girls soccer are usually there.
Yes. for
Who
practice.
is the body in charge of scheduling all of these games and teams that share the fields?
Combination of Chris Sawyer and Kevin Mayette, Kevin Mayette is the middle school athletic
Sports.
director, and Chris Sawyer is the high school athletic director, so it's a
Okay,
combination.
so it's sort of administrated through the high school district, essentially.
Soon, Robin, you will be cruising those fields more than you ever
You will
wanted.
know him like the back of
You don't
your
know my
hand.
child. I will never set foot on those fields, and I guarantee it. This is someone who passionately and vehemently retired from soccer at age 8, never to return.
So my
You do have
question.
3, however.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true. We'll see. We'll see if the third one has a different inclination than the other two.
So I actually took this question to Bob Fisher instead of taking it to Chris Leopold, our lawyer, because I thought Bob, being from the town of Brattleboro, might have a really fast answer of if we wanted to. At first I thought I was very worried that we had to get this onto the agenda and the warrants and the articles and all that for town meeting, and then I remembered, no, we gave away property before. We are good at this.
Sell it for $1.
So, well, before we gave it away, remember with the fire department, that at Academy School, our board very easily, congenially said to the town, look, you have a 99-year lease to build a building, you're about to build a new building, we hope lasts 100 years. What are we doing leasing you? I mean, the long-term lease still makes no sense to me. So I thought, well, let's ask Bob the same thing. So I had a nice email conversation. Bob gets super big brownie points for answering back within minutes on his emails today. And he said there's several ways to do this. I mean, I thought of several things and threw them at him, but he said the best is a conveyance. So we actually would do the same thing as we did as the fire department. The other way that I came up with would be something like the first right of refusal, and put in there the first right of refusal, and the town would get to buy it at $100 or $1 or $10, whatever. We put some money in there. He said, and I said, but if this were to go to a merger, how much authority does that board, our board now, and the new board, how does that happen? And so he said, yes, he agrees that the conveyance is the cleanest. So
A conveyance is basically a
give it
donation.
away, or $1 or whatever we want to
Okay.
ask back.
Okay.
And to do that, it's as simple as what we did with the fire department land, Academy Fire Department now, which is basically he would come to our next meeting and he would work up some sort of language. And he said that, or Peter Elwell has also chimed in that he believes the select board would also consider accepting other properties, the Crowell lot and the Fort Dummer field. Bob was going to check and did not come back yet with me to me with a final answer if we own yet more property.
There's actually a hillside by the cotton mill that we own, that the power company's got a bunch of stuff on. I'd love to get rid of that.
Okay.
It's a
So,
really steep hill.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
so my recommendation to us all would be that, we talked about this briefly the last meeting, at the very end of our meeting, and Em wasn't even there to be recording it. So I kind of feel like having this information is really good for tonight, but to put it onto the next month's agenda. We don't meet again in February, but I don't see an urgency that this has to be done before our next meeting. And we can then, oh here, I do know. We got the Fort Dummer Fields in 1959. So there you are. The
My
soccer
one
baseball.
concern with the Fort Dummer, and obviously makes sense to give it to the town, but making sure that the high school and the middle school still has access to those fields, because there are not enough fields at the high school for all of the sport teams.
So maybe we
And
could ask
that
them to
needs
put that in there.
That needs to be maintained, otherwise there's,
Because then you can be fine with your town rec.
Right.
you know,
I
like-
wonder if,
and there's not, you
Let me-
cannot, you can't switch it out for the town rec, because those sports teams, they have limited time to begin with.
I actually was having a conversation with somebody about the Dummerston action with their fields, and the reason why they were interested in giving theirs away, and I think for us this might be something to think about why we might want to not give it away, is that they were concerned that they would lose the priority usage of the fields for, in their case, their town rec. So they share their playing fields between the Dummerston School and the Dummerston municipal children's teams, whatever you call that. Yeah, so they were concerned that if WSESU owned it and they have, like the high school, a shortage of playing fields for their games, that they might get their town sports pushed out of that field. So I'm wondering for us if it might actually be the opposite, if we might want to hang on to that property so that it would then become the property of WSESU in the merge, and that way we could keep on using the fields the same way that they are currently being used by the high school, and then allowing the town to use them when there's time for, or the Little League, whoever runs that, when there's time for them.
All good points.
I mean, I definitely agree with the Crowell lot, because that is used a lot by the town, and less so than the schools.
Is it used by the schools on a
Well,
regular
that's
basis?
what I was kind of wondering
Yeah.
about asking Mark, if there's anything
Kelsey?
that would impact the school negatively about not owning that.
I can't give you a complete answer, but I do know that Matt LeBlanc uses them for PE classes sometimes, or uses the Crowell lot for PE classes sometimes. We use it for field day. Other than that, I can't tell you.
So maybe that's something we could ask to whoever's the authority on the town, of like, would they be fine with the school still using that park the same way that Academy kids walk and use
I don't think
Memorial
we'd
Park?
ask. I think we put that in our legal
Okay.
conveyance,
The
right?
legalese.
Okay.
That
They
we,
just say
I think we'd
access.
want to put into the conveyance that the town's
First
school
dibs.
children
Yeah.
would get first dibs on the Crowell lot, and
Okay.
perhaps we can do the same thing with the Fort Dummer. Although, you know, what you say is also
Yeah,
true.
Dummer's
Robin.
really different because it's
Yeah.
not like a town
Right, it's
use
not.
the way the Crowell lot is.
Right, it's
I mean,
it's actual
if
sports
the school district
fields.
wanted to build something,
And
if
who
the merged
maintains
district
the
wanted to build
fields?
something at Fort Dummer, you know, it wouldn't really
Right.
affect the town much. So they want to do something with the Crowell lot, definitely.
Yeah.
It's really about looking forward in terms of whose interests need to be most protected. The Crowell lot, obviously, the towns do.
Okay, so let's do two things. First, are we all in agreement that we want Peter can come if he wants, I guess, Bob Fisher to come to our next meeting and for him to prepare some sort of language for us? Are we in agreement with that in general?
Yeah.
Yes.
So then the next part is, what do we want this language to say? And do we want to convey, let's do them separately. We definitely want to convey the Crowell lot, yes?
I feel a little bit uncomfortable making a decision on that without talking to Mark, just in case
Well,
there is
Kelsey's
something that he
here.
has a feeling.
I think Mark needs to be involved in that conversation.
Well, then
Yeah,
you are
that's-
not going to be able to move this forward until at least the second meeting in March. You're all right with that?
I mean, it seemed like before you said that there wasn't a rush to do it before then, right?
You all at the last meeting said that there was a rush to
Okay.
get it done because,
Well, I think we were thinking to get it done before the merge. I guess if we think about the second meeting in March, there's a possibility that it might not be the same board members, but the school board
would
at
be the
Brattleboro will
s-
still exist.
it'll still be the same board members because we don't change until after town meeting.
Oh, right,
And-
okay,
and I
so
think
that's the one before town
I
meeting.
think the rush was, we weren't sure if we needed to bring it to town meeting or not.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And seeing as though we do not have to do that,
But we could add it at the end of business, say also, we'd like to just get a straw poll, what do you think about this? If we wanted to do that, we could do that too.
At what business? At the end of this town
At the
meeting?
end of our agenda, say,
At town
there's
meeting.
there's another business thing, we have other business we're considering giving the town, and then the town reps could weigh in on it too. That could take 3 or 4 hours if we
Yeah.
worked it
I'm
right.
thinking, why would I
I'm
do
good.
that?
We're good. I'm good with not bringing that up. I mean, I don't know if you want to email Mark and get his thoughts on it. I mean-
If we don't think that there's a rush, I'm just pointing out the
Mhm.
timing, because
No, I know.
we're going to, there's also one other thing that has to happen. If we made a motion tonight to ask Bob to do it, I think he'd still have to bring back the wording. And then we'd have to approve that.
Right.
Then we
And
have to
then we
actually
can warn
announce it in the paper.
Mm-hmm.
And how long was it in the paper last
It
time?
was
A month?
like
days.
30,
It was a
yeah,
30
it was a 30-day.
So that's looking like the end of April before it could actually be finalized, because then it had to come back and get one more blessing from our board.
And it always takes longer.
And didn't the select board also have to sign for the,
Yeah, we have to take it, we have to accept it.
right,
I don't
So,
think we have to warn accepting it.
okay.
Well, maybe
No,
we
we did
should
not.
then come up with something tonight and then at our next meeting.
We could
if
do a
we get
motion
other
of-
input from Mark, we can always revise.
We could do a motion to say, as long as Mark doesn't have any other concerns, and I also almost feel like Chris Sawyer at the high school maybe, and Kevin Mayette ought to be consulted for those Fort Dummer fields, yeah?
Well, if
They're
we're
the ones that
including
use
the
it.
Fort Dummer fields, that's
Well,
not.
maybe
a-
just consult on what
that's
do they
not-
think is good if we keep it or don't keep it.
Right.
I think I would make a motion about only the Crowell lot for it personally. That's what I would.
I can see either way on the Fort Dummer field, because the Fort Dummer field to me is already used by a regional merged entity. That's
Right, but if we're giving it to the town,
right.
then it could potentially not be used by a
Right,
regional
so that's
entity.
why I'm saying,
That's-
I see what
Yeah.
Robin is making that point, yeah.
So that could be, that could also be in.
And they'll charge, that's true. Every time that it's not ours,
Charges for every.
the town does, they charge for everything.
And we offer free gym space. I wasn't gonna do this on camera, but we offer free gym space, we offer free field space, but yet we're all charged for any service, any rec center facility that we have to use.
Well, it gets even sillier,
So-
because the reason why town
Charges
meeting is held at
yeah.
BAMS is because BUHS charges what BAMS doesn't for town meeting to the town. And that's why we do the town information nights in an academy or wherever, because Again, the towns don't charge. I mean, the whole thing for me, between the town and the schools, has driven me nuts for years at town meeting. The whole tit for tat. We're all the same taxpayers, it's just taken out of a different pocket. Which is why I enthusiastically said, give the fire station that land. Because if it's already there, why are we fighting over that?
I'll make a motion that we ask Bob Fisher to prepare a conveyance of the Crowell lot to the town of Brattleboro.
For $1, $2, $5, none?
Is it okay for $1? Is that the usual? You have to do it for a sale.
Nobody said we could, so I guess
Well,
that maybe is
really
usual.
can't wait to make that $1.
Well, if somebody pointed out after we did the fire department that maybe we should have asked, that we'd get signage hung up or that they would do X, Y, Z, that they
I don't know if there might be some kind of financial difference of whether it's a gift versus a sale. Sometimes there's like a tax.
That they don't charge all of our schools to use the town facilities.
There was a conversation
That's
with
our
the town
price.
about having some maintenance done on our parking lot in return, or paint done.
Oh yes, Andy had done that
Yeah.
at one point.
Yeah.
Did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, they're responsive when we ask.
Yeah.
Help.
So do
So
you
we
think we
need
should
to
put a condition in this conveyance?
No, but I think when Bob's here and maybe a select board member that we know maybe could convey that as well.
I don't think you can.
That we would like to declare a
But we-
treaty on charging
it's a-
each other for things?
It's a contract, so we do an executive session. I couldn't tell you anyway.
All right, are we done with that motion? Is it?
I don't think anyone seconded it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Do we know what we've said in the motion?
Okay.
Kelsey?
If he suggested a fee, I'll just put $1 in as it. So I ask that we ask Bob Fisher I move that we ask Bob Fisher to prepare a conveyance of the Crowell lot to the town of Brattleboro for $1.
Second.
Any other discussion?
I'm not opposed to changing that, saying they don't charge the schools.
And free use of
Yes.
the other playing fields.
Yes.
Okay.
What other playing fields are we being charged for? Playing fields? No.
Well, didn't we say that we wanted to have something in there about the school gets first dibs on using it?
Well, what were you referring to, Jerry, when you said that they charge
that
us
thought,
for
David.
using fields? Is that for high school
most
and
of
middle
our-
school sports teams or for
Well,
any
they're
elementary?
Well, they use Fort Dummer because currently it's our space right now. I'm just saying, like, if we go up to Memorial Park, like, we don't get breaks on going to the rec center, for example. We don't get breaks on,
We get charged when we
ice
go
rink.
to Memorial Park for a field day? No.
If you use the shelter up top.
The things that they charge people for, they charge us for the skating rink.
I get the skating rink I get because it does have a specific cost all the time to keep it alive. Just to keep it cool. But
No, but like if you use a rec center, if you use a basketball, you go.
Is that something that our school teams do? Use the basketball court at the rec center sometimes?
I'm just thinking like during like winter sports and stuff. If you
Okay.
were going to take a group of kids and have another indoor space for winter sports, there would be a rental fee there. So, and I just know when I was at the middle school how much we use Fort Dummer. We rely on Fort Dummer, and that's all. I would just overly cautious about.
Fort Dummer is basically in BAM's students. That's like their field. It's like
BAM's.
walking
That's
outside
our-
at academy.
and freshmen.
I mean,
Freshmen are down there a lot too. Freshmen
I
too.
mean, that's
That's it.
But if we don't do anything, then we'll just continue to own that and eventually BAMS will be part of the ownership as well once the district is.
I'm actually leaning more towards that. I think it should stay with the schools.
Yes.
All right.
Think about it.
So that's a lot of discussion. Did we have a second? Yes?
Yes.
I feel like maybe let's not attach that language into this motion about the Crowell law because it doesn't have the same.
But we did want to say that the school gets priority to, or gets to continue to use
Yes.
it.
And maybe
So-
just say Brattleboro Town schools can still have use of the lot.
How about we just say schools?
All schools.
Yeah. But I do think we do want to consult with Mark on this too.
Okay, so should I put that in the motion or just
I've gotten completely lost.
Yeah, right of
What
next
are we
week's
voting on,
meeting.
Kelsey?
Next time's meeting.
The first motion was, Robin made a motion to ask Bob Fisher to prepare a conveyance of the Crowell lot to the town of Brattleboro for $1, and that was seconded.
I think I just made the same motion again later too.
Well, I think she's friendly
Yeah.
amending her own motion to say,
Yes.
the town, how do we just say, we ask, or in exchange, we ask that the town, that any schools continue to use that lot.
Continue to be allowed to use that lot free of charge.
Correct. As a priority.
And have priority.
Yeah.
Free of charge and have priority, that covers it, right?
That's nice and explicit.
Yeah. Okay.
And I second the
amended.
The amendment.
All in favor?
Myself.
Aye. And so I will check with Mark, or you?
Okay.
Okay. You check with Mark and just make sure he's okay with that. And are we all in agreement we're not going to do anything with Fort Dummer?
Yes.
We need a motion on that? No, because we're not doing anything.
I move that we don't.
I move that we
don't do a motion.
All right, and if Bob comes back with anything further, I will come back to you all with something further.
Yes. It will be interesting to find out
what else
we might potentially own.
David knows about something. So at this point, I don't think there's anything else. Right?
You want to confirm next?
The agenda for next meeting. So the next meeting is not until March. We're not meeting in the second part of February because we're all supposed to be on school vacation. So the next Brattleboro Town Board meeting is March 6th.
6?
6th. No, 5th is Tuesday. 6th is Wednesday.
Why do I have it on the 5th? Because it's long. No, it's right here.
What's on, are you on the work plan right there?
I'm on the,
On last year's work plan?
yeah, and for some reason I got it March 5th. But anyway, it's gonna be 6.
Do you have the work
Yeah,
plan
it
right
does
there?
say March 5th, but just a typo, I'm sure.
Okay, well, it is the 6th.
Great.
And we're back at Academy.
Back at Academy.
It says Oak Grove though.
It does? Oh, it does, but.
Okay.
Oh, I know I have Academy. Is that when Academy's
safety
6th
day.
grade is coming?
Oh, about the green roof.
Oh yeah, we're gonna hear about the green roof. Okay.
Okay, so
Okay, at
so
Oak Grove.
we're here at Oak Grove, but Academy is coming.
To talk about the green roof.
Do you want to move it to Academy?
Yes, we can move.
And since we're talking about the roof of that building, might be.
Let's move to Academy.
Jerry, you're fine with us moving that meeting? Okay.
We can go up on the roof and walk around.
Yeah.
We can shovel snow that
You
day.
can go on up. I'm good on the ground.
What else is on the agenda besides the green roof?
Prepare for town meeting.
Prepare for town meeting. So maybe by March 6th, we'll know if we're suddenly presenting a budget. If we're suddenly going to be presenting a budget, we will have to have a town informational night.
Right. If we're not
not-
gonna be presenting a budget, we should probably talk about use of reserve fund and start that process.
Use of reserve fund.
We've got about 6, well, I'm not sure how much, about 600,000.
We already did that though in the budget.
No, I'm talking about if we merge.
If
we
we wanna
wanna
use
use
any of
that
our
$600,000 reserve.
Designating it.
Yeah.
The other thing on the 6th is I think we should look at the video. Haha, we should have that video done.
Okay.
So that we can all see the video that we said we were gonna send out and have available, which we're
And then-
doing no matter of a merger or not.
And I have the minutes or the notes from the Green Street presentation for when people said interesting things that we
So
should do.
shoot that to me or give it to me. Kim and I have got a time set next
Okay,
week,
great.
actually,
Yeah.
to get together to
I
look.
missed the meeting
off
when you
on
talked about
Tuesday.
doing that, so I will.
Anything else? There's nothing else on our work plan? Seriously?
We probably thought we would need the whole meeting to prepare for town meeting.
Yes.
So that's
All right,
why
I
we
like
didn't put
that.
anything else on the day, and then the following one is the meeting itself. So we'll have a really open one on that meeting if we don't have to
We don't have
do
to
it.
present.
Okay. All right, so at this point, we need a motion to go into executive session for a personnel matter.
I don't know if it's
It's not personnel, it's
So we can't use it. Student related, so it would still fall under confidential. There will be no action after that, so Em, I would think that we're okay with cutting off at this point.
You should invite Jerry, Marisa.
I'd like to invite, I'm making a motion, I guess, and at the same time I'm making this motion, I'm inviting Jerry and Marissa to hang out with us Can I have a second to that
Second.
motion? All in favor to go into executive session?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you to the other folks.